In America, we right now think that people are having their eyes gouged out, paying $3.20 for a gallon of gasoline. That's 20 cents a cup. And 20 cents a cup sounds pretty trivial, but if you have a passenger car, average American passenger car, you can get 1 to 6 people in it, throw a bunch of stuff in the luggage, in the trunk, go a mile and a half in 20 minutes for 20 cents. Now, if you don't have gasoline and you try to bargain with a guy with a horse-drawn cart or someone coming by with a bicycle, or maybe you're lucky enough to have a rickshaw, said, "Excuse me, would any of you like to take me a mile and a half, me and my friends, a mile and a half for 20 cents? Those people would laugh at you. So I would think that we would need to get oil prices up to, $5 a cup, some number that starts to equate with what we actually spend readily on a lot of things that aren't nearly as valuable and also aren't non-renewable.
One thing you'll definitely take away from the powerful documentary A Crude Awakening is that oil is truly an amazing substance, the product of organic material and solar energy compressed, concentrated, and cooked over millions of years. Our ability to use oil has fueled mankind's population boom and allowed us to conquer the world and even a few parts of space. Everything in our lives is dependent on oil, from the food we eat to the manufacturing and transportation of every single product we use. Oil is mankind's lifeblood, and what A Crude Awakening will tell you quite convincingly is that we're very close to running out of it, something that mankind is clearly unprepared for, at which point we'll more than likely be completely screwed. Need convincing? Then I think I have the movie for you. A Crude Awakening provides a vital perspective that I'd never really thought of, that virtually every aspect of modern civilization and progress has come from oil. It enables science, transportation, war, commerce, technology, food production, packaging, manufacturing. If it's in your life, chances are it's made of, with, or brought to you by oil. And for the longest time, those of us in the industrialized nations have acted as if we'd never run out. The US used to be the world's #1 oil producer until as recently as the 1950s, essentially the Saudi Arabia of its day, and we acted like those Texas wells would never stop pumping, just as we're currently pretending that Saudi Arabian oil will always be there. Little hint for you, it won't. As experts in the film point out, our methods of both finding and extracting oil are already highly advanced, meaning that we've become very good at locating oil and getting it out of the ground fast. There simply aren't any big untapped oil fields left to discover, and even if there are, they won't make a dent in global demand, especially with so many countries trying to emulate the West's oil-fueled prosperity, including giants like China and India who've only recently begun using oil in large amounts. Yet even as global demand and use of oil has grown, the projected reserves of oil have miraculously remained constant. How could this be? You guessed it, it's a scam. Oil-producing countries have an incentive to lie about their reserves, since the more oil they claim they have, the more they can pump and the more money they can make. Sure, this means that we're using oil at a dangerous and irresponsible rate. But hey, since when have we let long-term realities get in the way of destructive short-term profits? What are you, a socialist or something? A Crude Awakening also deflates some of the myths about where our future energy could come from. Hydrogen? Only if you don't mind waiting 30 to 50 years at the minimum to create the infrastructure and demand. Nuclear? Sure, if you don't mind 10,000 new nuclear plants, the threats to national security, the problem of what to do with the waste, and the fact that the world would probably run out of uranium for the reactors in 10 to 20 years. Tar sands take tons of fuel to extract the oil, wreck the environment in the process, and are the oil equivalent of trying to scrape pot crumbs out of your carpet. It's really not a good way to keep you high. There isn't enough biomass to convert to fuel without raising food prices or using more fuel to grow it. And even wind power is called out as too intermittent and having too low of an energy density to ever be a viable large-scale source of energy. No, the holy grail of energy is the sun, which reliably rains down 20,000 times more energy on our planet than humans currently use, and is ultimately the source of the fossil fuel energy we use now. Unfortunately, we've barely begun to understand how to harness solar energy, and it seems like the world's politicians won't summon the courage to call for a transition to clean energy until we're beyond the crisis stage. But as one of the film's experts points out, the Stone Age didn't end because we ran out of stones, and we didn't invent cars because we ran out of hay for our horses. As the people in A Crude Awakening tell us, humans have reached the peak in terms of oil production and use. What we do next will decide if we're going to descend slowly from this peak into the oilless valley, or if we're going to remain oblivious until we step off a very, very tall cliff. I'm Jonathan Kim, and this is a ReThink Review.